So if the President of the United States called you someday and said, the country needs you to be Secretary, Treasurer, Chairman of the Fed, you would say,
Call Mr. Rubenstein.
well, I think that call is unlikely to happen.
Would you fix your tie, please?
Well, people wouldn't recognize me if my tie was fixed, but okay. Just
Then
leave
leave
it
it.
this way. All right. I don't consider myself a journalist, and nobody else would consider myself a journalist. I began to take on the life of being an interviewer, even though I have a day job of running a private equity firm. How do you define leadership? What is it that makes somebody tick?
Company, and we achieved that. And now the time is to put your head down and get the real work done.
Hey, but after the company did go public, while I kind of pointed out that it is a very high market capitalization so soon after its IPO, it did go down by about 11%, which is a record decline after an IPO. So did you think the investment bankers didn't price it correctly, or what do you think the problem was on the IPO?
You know, I love how this interview is starting. I really appreciate that.
What's the most popular food that on your Uber Eats?
Fried chicken is magic.
Fried chicken. And how do you keep the grease from kind of going through? I mean, they just...
David, I'm covering that in my next monthly business review. I haven't gone to fried chicken grease
All
yet.
right, fried
but
chicken.
We're working
Okay,
on
that's the most popular.
Yeah.
So you went to high school in
Tarrytown, New York, Hackley School.
and then you went to Brown?
Yes, I studied bioelectrical engineering at Brown, and then threw it all the way to be an investment banker in New York City. So go figure.
So you were at Allen and Company for
Yes.
many years?
Yes.
And you didn't want to go into private equity? The higher calling of investment banking was good enough?
You know, it was a question of just how evil I wanted to be. And I wanted to be just a little less evil.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, you could have gone to hedge funds if you wanted. But
That's
okay.
the ultimate.
Okay.
With
So-
that, I would have had horns.
So you live in Washington State, in Seattle,
Yeah.
or outside of Seattle. Now, the man who was the richest man for about 20 years is named Bill Gates.
Yeah.
And what is the likelihood that the two richest men in the world live not only in the same country, not only the same state, not only the same city, but in the same neighborhood? I mean, is there something in that neighborhood that we should know about? And are there any more houses for sale there?
After I saw Bill not too long ago, we were joking about the world's richest man thing, and I basically said I said you're welcome, and he immediately turned to me and said thank you.
You carry cash around, or you carry?
Yeah,
anything?
I do carry cash, and I have credit cards. Yeah.
And if your credit
I
card,
have to show my driver's license, and
but have you ever had a credit card
not-
denied? No, has that ever happened?
I have. I've had my credit card denied.
So what do you say when you say, don't you know who
I give him another credit card. I say, here, try this one.
Okay. When you use your intuition to make decisions, where is the intuition leading you now on your second headquarters?
All right. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge that may be the best segue in the history of interviewing?
All right.
Seriously, David,
So-
that is
All right.
that's
so
amazing.
The answer is,
The proud of is that I took on the Washington Post and helped them through a very rough transition.
so when you agreed to buy it, I think the asking price was $250 million. You negotiate?
No, Don. I asked him how much he wanted. He said $250. I said fine. I didn't negotiate with him, and I did no due diligence. And I wouldn't need to with Don. He told
I
me
have something I'd like to sell. Now that you own the Washington Post, sometimes there are some people who criticize some things that the Washington Post says, and you've been remarkably quiet.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Have you thought about this? Warren still uses that old flip phone.
I know.
And he has no smartphone. Have you thought how much more your stock could go up if he actually used the product?
I am working on him.
Okay.
And I've told him that I'll personally come out to Omaha to do tech support for him.
So I have my iPhone here, actually, and I do use it, and I love it. And one time you and I were in China, I couldn't quite work something, and I asked you to help me, and you said, look, I normally don't do tech support for people, but you were nice, and it did work. It came out with the Apple Watch not too long ago. Why was it called the Apple Watch and not the iWatch? Because you have iPhone, iPod, iPad. Why not iWatch? Did you ever think of that, or? I'm sure you must have thought of it. I'm sure it's not a novel idea, but I'm just curious.
It was something that we thought of at the time.
So it wasn't a crazy question. So
no, it wasn't a crazy question at all. And
how come Apple Watch won out?
Well, I kind of like the Apple Watch. What do you think?
Okay, well, you're the CEO, so okay,
I say, here's my credit card. They want my ID these days. Okay. Then when I check out, they want my credit card again. Why do they need my credit card after I checked in the day before, and why do they need it again?
Well, they shouldn't need that unless there's something deeply suspicious about you.
That could be the case. It could be.
My advice would be don't check out.
See, the reason is, suppose I check in and say, look, I don't really like credit cards and all that. I'll pay you cash. Here's my ID. Will you take somebody's money if they just say I only have cash?
Yeah, I think we will. Now they'll still get your ID and they'll use their judgment to try and figure out why you're paying cash. And they might take a little bit of extra cash in case there is damage to the room or something.
Suppose I come in with cash. I say I want to pay cash. I only need the room for an hour. Do they say, well, you got to pay the full rate, or can I negotiate an hour rate? You do that?
I don't know that we have any hotels that have rates by the hour.
Really? When I check out of a hotel sometimes, and I do check out, they say, did you have anything in the mini bar last night? Now, I hate to stand there in front of people and say I had some gummy bears, I had some whatever else. I just say, no, I assume they'll figure it out later.
This is another reason why we lose money on the mini bar.
Okay, so why?
Because everybody who has those Pringles, nobody wants to admit it.
Right. So do people actually admit, I had Pringles last night, I have an inventory of all the things I had last night, or do people just say I had nothing and then you later go in the room and you charge them later?
That's right. I mean, that's the way this works.
Okay.
Is somebody will go into the room later and take an inventory of the minibar and see what was there. Now, in some, you probably noticed this, some of the minibar fridges are set up to be self-reporting. So you'll take a can of beer out.
I know that, and I don't like that sometimes, because if I go to pick up something and then all of a sudden, and then I realize I really don't want that, and I put it back down, it's already charged.
You better drink it. Yeah.
Now, when people check out of a room, what percent of people leave it a mess?
100%.
100%.
March and Jeddah, and it's going to be an amazing experience for us.
So if you're playing, you're the head of the Saudi, or chairman of Saudi Aramco, you're the head of PIF. When you have a putt, if it's 3 or 4 feet, do they just say they give it to you, or do they actually make you putt it out?
No comments.
Okay.
Just has to be a little careful to be it's too self-serving, and that does not appeal to the American public. It doesn't help politicians get things done, and that's what I'm saying. An earned income tax credit, taxing your carried interest a little bit, those would be good things for America. We should do that and help them at the lower end with education, income assistance, all those things we need, but have corporate tax reform.
Well, that's the interview's over.
You can afford it, David, okay?
Thank you. By the way, before we close, do you have any stock tips for me? I'd look for a couple stock tips. Do you have any good ideas of what I could do with my money in the stock market?
I think maybe you ought to consider, I know Carlisle a lot, and you've done a fantastic job. How about an index fund?